And as part of our continuing political coverage this election season, we turn now to the Massachusetts Senate race. In November, incumbent Democrat Senator Elizabeth Warren will be facing a challenge from the winner of the Republican primary, which will be held in September. Warren will also be facing a challenge from an independent candidate, Shiva Ayyadurai. And Shiva joins us now in the studio. Welcome to Radio Boston.
Great to be here, Meghna. Thanks for having me.
Well, first of all, let me ask you, you entered this race as a Republican, then left the Republican Party to run as an independent. Why?
The Republican Party is actually an irrelevant party. That's what I discovered. What turns out is that, I never voted for anyone. When I was in 1984, I actually broke from both Republicans and Democrats as an activist when I was at MIT. And when Trump ran, I was very awakened because I felt that he was a disruptor, a necessary disruption. So I registered as an independent and voted for Trump. And then I registered for the Republican Party. Wherever I went, Meghna, on the Republican town committees, I got standing ovations. But Charlie Baker and Elizabeth Warren are in a collusion, and they did not want an outsider in there. In fact, they had a rigged system, which we can talk about. So I want to serve the people of Massachusetts, so I decided that it was better to run as an independent. And in fact, when you look at Massachusetts, it's not a red state, it's not a blue state. It's actually a state of unenrolled independents.
Of unenrolled voters, that's right.
Yeah, it's more than 50% are independents. But more importantly, the Republican Party of Lincoln is not what's represented. What you have is a two-party collusion. Charlie Baker wants Elizabeth Warren to win. Elizabeth Warren wants to keep Baker in.
But so many ways we could take this forward, Shiva. Donald Trump nevertheless ran as a Republican. So he's disrupting from within the Republican Party. They're
not going to let anyone like Trump come again because the swamp is extremely bright. And Trump was able to do it because, look, he already had visibility. He was in everyone's living room on The Apprentice, and that's not what the Republican Party expected. And before that, Trump was running on the Reform Party ticket, or he explored that. So Donald Trump, if we want to look in all fairness, is not a Republican or a Democrat. He's Donald Trump.
Got it. Well, and now I would say the Republican Party is the party of Donald Trump. Just in terms of I was going to say your fellow, but in terms of Republicans running in the Senate race, we just have a statement here from a spokesperson from Jeff Deal's campaign who called your move to run as an independent as, quote, a desperation move by a failing candidate. I mean, how do you respond to critics who say that you've made this decision simply to avoid having to compete with candidates like
Well, it's Jeff Deal who basically has a collusion with Charlie Baker. And that collusion was struck because he was going to run for governor. And the deal was that Deal would do a dirty deal and be the front end in order to exploit the Trump voters who are essentially anti-establishment and bring them back to Charlie Baker. You have to remember, Jeff Deal could not even win a state Senate seat. He's run by a Saudi lobbyist who betrayed American veterans. And the guy also was voted for Joe Biden. And finally, he faked a picture with Donald Trump. So what's going on with the Republican establishment is they are putting forward this guy who we, by the way, call Dirty Deal to suck the Trump voters back into the establishment Republican Party.
Okay, so let me ask you, is there any Massachusetts politician right now that you don't think is in, quote, collusion with anybody else?
Right now, we do not have a state or we do not have independent movements, and that's what we're trying to unleash with our election.
But you've used the word collusion several times.
Oh, there is definitely collusion. If anyone doesn't think there's collusion, they're extremely naive.
Of what sort?
Well, the Republicans and Democrats have structured a system that only one of them can win the way it's structured. Look, by any means, a guy with 4 degrees from MIT, an inventor scientist, the Republican Party should have embraced him. If you look at online at the Cape Cod Republican Club, one of the most prestigious Republican clubs, I get a standing ovation. Shortly thereafter, you see people starting to attack me from the right. And that is what Charlie Baker is all about. Charlie Baker controls the Mass GOP. Jeff Deal is nobody without Charlie Baker.
So I take your point about the power, the entrenched power of the Republican and Democratic parties. I take your point there. But the word collusion is a very, very loaded term right now.
Well, the Democrats use it with Russian collusion.
But that has,
the NPR uses that word all the time. And I want to use that word in a balanced way. The Democrats and Republicans are in collusion.
NPR does not use that word. NPR, when referencing specifics about Robert Mueller's investigation, says specifics about the investigation.
I think NPR has used the word collusion multiple times. If we did a word search on NPR, we'd probably see it more than 100 times.
It's almost certainly in likely reference to quotes that other people have said.
It's still, you guys use it. You guys don't say we shouldn't use the word collusion.
Am I supposed to let you not use the word right now? You're
trying to, I don't know why see, this is what I'm saying. You're trying to control my speech on what I use. There is collusion. collusion. And if you want, we can go into the definition of collusion. We can bring. No, let me finish this. There is collusion. You have two parties which work against the common man. In Massachusetts, it's a state of independence. And what they consistently do is they bully people to vote for one of these parties as though you have to choose a lesser of two evils. That's what I saw Jesse Jackson do in 1984. Here he was running as supposedly building a movement. And at the last minute, I don't know what your age is, but he sold all of his votes to Walter Mondale, pointing the evil at Ronald Reagan. That is what occurs in world politics, not only in America, but everywhere. You have the establishment, the not-so-obvious establishment, and you have the real change agents, which are people on the street building independent movements.
So you're running as a candidate of disruption?
I'm running as a candidate who came here as an immigrant from what was called untouchables in India, worked hard through the public school systems of this country, went through the process of education from immigration, started 7 companies, and went through MIT without lying to get in there, and got 4 degrees. You're looking at someone who is the embodiment of the spirit of America, which is the slogan of Massachusetts. That's what you're looking at. And it's about time that the liberal organizations who are so afraid of me because I do not fit their model of what I talk about start giving me airtime, because I'm the only one who can really represent the people of the state. You're looking at an inventor, you're looking at a scientist, you're looking at an educator, you're looking at an author, and you're looking at a worker. Elizabeth Warren is a lawyer lobbyist. None of the other Republican candidates, I don't think they've really built anything, created anything. Massachusetts is a state of innovators. $2 trillion in GDP came from the 30,000 small businesses that came out of MIT. And none of these politicians know how to, frankly, fix anything.
So you've called your campaign a historic grassroots campaign. What do you mean by that?
It is a historic grassroots campaign. Look, I'll tell you, we are giving you guys the exclusive announcement. If you notice, I have a label here which says McCormick Building. We just came from the McCormick Building. We just got 10,354 signatures. We are the first official candidate on the ballot. Elizabeth Warren isn't officially on the ballot. As far as I know, she has to go through a primary, probably unchallenged, and no other Republican. How did we get those signatures, Meghna? Let's talk about that, because right now, most of these guys pay for their signatures or they use their existing network. We have built up nearly over 4,500 volunteers all across the state, moved by our message. We got close to 25,000 signatures, and today we submitted a portion of them, and 10,354 were certified. This is no small feat. You talk to anyone out there, they would have considered this an impossibility. I can't tell you how many people said, Shiva, pay for your signatures, pay for your signatures. We did not pay for one signature. And this needs to be really understood. This is a grassroots movement.
Do you mean you didn't pay, you didn't hire people to gather the signatures?
That's what people do. No, they are signature companies.
Yeah, so you didn't do that.
We didn't do that. Every one of our signatures, a bunch of my volunteers are behind me in the studio here. You're talking about everyday working people who believed in our message. Most of the other campaigns either paid for them or they have political hacks. This campaign is truly a campaign by the people, for the people, because they are moved by our message, which is a message of clean government, term limits, real health. We got to get rid of companies like Monsanto. Elizabeth Warren voted for the Monsanto Protection Act. We need real jobs. In Massachusetts, for every 17 high-tech job openings, only one person is skilled.
So just a quick thing there. Senator Warren has said she voted for that act because she didn't want state-level Monsanto regulations. She wanted national-level regulations. There's context there.
Well, you know
but
what? This is a flim-flam. Well, let me finish. This is the kind of way politicians are.
Actually, let me finish if you could. Because
you shouldn't be defending her, though. You're defending her.
I am not defending
her. You are.
She
voted for the Monsanto Protection Act. Let's look at it. She voted yay.
I am offering context for
why?
that
Why not
vote,
look at the actual
context? Because that's my
context.
job. But I was going to ask you about your grassroots campaign, because you've raised your latest FEC filings show that you have almost $5 million in your account.
Well,
but 97% of that has come from you?
We have contributed our technology and software. Look, most of these other people who don't know how to create anything, you're looking at someone who builds his own software. We use it. We've contributed our own technology. None of these guys know even how to code software. So you're looking at multi-million dollars worth of software, which I've contributed. So we don't need to go scam other people. That's what these other politicians do. And we've got, if you look at not any PAC, not any corporations, we've gotten probably over 2,000 donations, small donations from people in-state and out-state. And that's what you're looking at. This is a grassroots campaign. And furthermore, we have to ask, why do we need this much money? Why does Elizabeth Warren need $14 million? Or, last campaign, they spent $100 million. The reason they need so much money, because none of these guys really have a message. They have to pummel people through broadcast media. They have to pummel people through advertising. And that's how they think they get out the vote. We're running a very different campaign. It is basically a core message, which comes out to the fact that, you're looking at a guy who came from nothing, went through the process of immigration, education, and innovation. And that's what this state is about. This is a state of immigrants, this is a state of innovators, and this is a state of people who educate and people who work for a living. And I'm the perfect representative for these people. Warren isn't. Warren is a lawyer lobbyist. She flim-flams. She lied to get into Harvard. She abused affirmative action. And that's what she's about. And the Republican candidates, John Kingston, I don't know what he is. He gave $300,000 to Bill Clinton to speak. Lottery Beth Lindstrom bases her thing on learning the lottery. And Jeff Deal is, a dirty politician.
So I understand that you have a lot of criticisms of other candidates in the race.
Well, I don't have a criticism. I want to expose them. It's not criticism, it's just facts.
We have a minute left to go, and I just wanted to ask you in terms of issues, sort of where you stand or ideas that you have on how to tackle them. And again, we only have a minute here, so let's just you mentioned that you mentioned that you're an immigrant. So let's just do that one. Do you have a specific policy or policy shift that you'd like to see on immigration?
Sure. So let me talk about my policies. First of all, you're looking at a guy who's a system scientist. I look at problems from a systems level. I don't look at it from one singular issue. So, the latest company I'm running is called Cytosolve. We have the ability to discover, in fact, we discovered a multi-combination drug for pancreatic cancer in a record 11 months and got allowance by the FDA. And so one of the singular things I believe is health. And 20% of the GDP spent on health, none of these guys even know how to address it because we have to lower the cost of health care. And part of lowering the cost of health care is fundamentally based in the recognition that big pharma, big hospitals, and big insurance companies work together. That's where Obamacare came out of. We need to lower the cost of health care. When it comes to immigration, you're looking at a legal immigrant. My parents came here on a merit-based immigration system. And furthermore, neither Democrat or Republican has ever wanted to solve the immigration issue. They both exploit immigrants. The Republicans exploit immigration for profit on Wall Street, and the left exploits immigration to get votes.
Well, Shiva Ayyadurai, my apologies, Ayyadurai is an independent candidate for United States Senate. Thanks so much.
ShivaForSenate.com. Thanks
for joining us. We'll be back. I'm Meghna Chakrabarti. This is Radio Boston.